All right, so we've gotten into our single note playing. Now's about time that we actually get into playing two notes at the same time, or what we refer to as harmony. So, there are all sorts of different types of harmony. I'm sure that you've listened to tons of songs where you have one singer singing a line and then another singer's coming and singing on top. At the same time. That's what we're going to be diving into in regard to guitar. So, one way that we could start figuring out our harmonies is by figuring out a scale first. So, remember, we've been working on the major scale, the C major scale specifically. So, when we play one of these notes at the same time and add another note, we're going to get a harmony. Now, in this case, because we're playing in the key of C major, and we're playing on guitar, we're going to have to do some tricks, but I'll walk you through them. So first, what I like to do is start with our root note. So our root note being C. And if I would play something called a major second, that would be me playing the root note and the second note of the major scale at the same time. And that would be called a major second. Now if we move on over to the third note of the scale and play them at the same time, that would be a major second. Now, if we play the root and we play the fourth note of the scale, you would think it would be called a major fourth, but actually it's a perfect fourth. And we'll get into that, why that's the case later, but right now just know that's the name. And then if we move on up to the fifth note in the scale and we play the fifth, we'll get a perfect fifth. And then if we play the root note and the sixth note of the scale, we'll get a major sixth. And if we play the root note and the seventh note of the scale, we'll get a major seventh. Lastly, if we play the eighth note of the scale and we play the root, we're going to get an octave. So let me go through each of those again. I'm going to play them and then I'm going to explain how I'm fingering those notes. So here we go. Really cool, very pretty sounding, and you've probably heard songs that sound like this, or that are making movements that sound like this. So what I'm doing for each of these harmonies is I'm anchoring my middle finger for these major harmonies, and that's what we're predominantly focusing on right here in the chorus. We're not getting too heady yet. We'll save that for piano. But I'm anchoring that middle finger. And anytime I have a note that I need to play, if it's going to be on the second fret, I'm going to use my pointer finger, like we've learned before. If it's going to be on the third fret, I'm going to use my ring finger because the middle finger is already being used. And then if it's going to be on another fret that's a little bit higher, I'm going to use my pinky. So in this case, because we couldn't play the C and the D at the same time on the same string, at least I'm sure that there's a way, but at least for our purposes to make it easy, for our purposes, it would be easier to play the open fourth string. So we're going to play with our middle finger anchored on the 3rd fret of string 5, and then we're going to play that open 4th string. And then follow it up with our pointer finger on the 2nd fret on the 4th string. Then ring finger follows up right behind the middle finger. Then pinky with the pointer finger on the 3rd fret. And then the middle finger is going to go right back to anchoring on that 3rd fret. And then pointer finger is going to follow for the 2nd fret of string 3. Now you could use your ring finger. It is a little bit of a stretch, so I would use my pinky here on the 4th fret of string 3. And then you could switch to the pointer finger and the pinky on the 5th fret, pointer finger on the 3rd. Now that's a really cool exercise to do. It's a great practice, and you might even be able to find some God-given songs from those kind of note combinations. So that's going to do it for just basic 2-note harmony. And when we move into the next lesson, we'll start talking about 3-note harmony. But that's it. God bless you, and Lord willing, I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, so we just played our harmonies, or 2-note harmonies, I should say, in the key of C. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk a little bit about triads, or major triads, specifically for our uses on the guitar. Now that sounds super fancy, and to define the terms, it'll make a lot of sense. How I think about it is a triad are 3 notes that you're adding together, 3 notes that you're putting together. Now, without getting too heady, is I want you to understand that a major triad, which we're focusing on, is built up of a root. It's built up by a root, a major 3rd, and a perfect 5th. Now, if you remember this when we were playing our harmonies in the last lesson, one thing that I was doing is I was playing my major 3rd when I would play these notes, my C and my E, where my middle finger is on the 3rd fret of string 5 and my pointer finger is on the 2nd fret of string 4. Now, in order to get that perfect 5th, we're going to have to do a little bit of trickery here. So instead of playing up on the 5th fret with our pinky, is what we're going to have to do is we're going to find an open string that we can actually play that harmony on. Now, if you remember our relative kind of tuning lesson, if we play this note up here on the 5th fret on our 4th string, you'll know that this open 3rd string, by the grace of God, is the same note. So if we want to play our C major harmony, all we'd have to do is play C, E, and G, where my ring finger, or my middle finger in this case, is on the 3rd fret, my pointer finger is on the 2nd fret, and the 3rd string is open. Just like that, and that's our C major triad, our root, 3rd, and 5th, to get just a little heady. So because we're focusing on predominantly major triads, it's very important for us to know the major triads within a key. We're not going to go in detail here, but one thing I want to walk through just a little bit is that we have multiple types of harmonies. We have major harmonies, We have minor harmonies. We have minor harmonies. Major harmonies. Minor harmonies. Diminished harmonies. And we have our major harmonies. Now again, like I said, we'll be talking about that stuff, Lord willing, later when it comes to piano, but just so that you know and you hear, and hopefully you spotted that there are 3 major harmonies. And there are 3 minors, but right now there are 3 major harmonies, and those are going to be the ones that we're going to focus on now. So in figuring out each of these harmonies, we first need to find the first note of the scale, the 4th note of the scale, and the 5th note of the scale. In this case, we could just go right back to the major scale, and this is a very, very crucial and useful tool we can use from the major scale. It's like a map or a key to figure out what we want to do with our music. Instructional wise and actually learning. So here we go. We're going to find that first note. Know where that is. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our 4th note. And then 5. So in this case, we're going to be playing a C. We're going to be playing an F. And we're going to be playing a G. Those are going to be our root notes for each of our harmonies. For the 1 chord, built off of the first note of the scale, the 4th chord, and the 5th chord in the key of C, built off of each of these notes in the scale. Now, what's really cool about guitar is anything that we actually figure out, we don't have to learn like a whole nother fingering exactly. Most of these patterns are movable shapes. So say you wanted to play in the key of G, or you wanted to play in the key of F. Depending on the key, you most likely are going to be able to play, I would say in most circumstances, are going to be able to play the same thing. There are some times where it's going to change up and you're going to have to figure out another fingering. But one thing that you can be rest assured about is a lot of this stuff is transferable, if not all of it. And with some doing, you can figure out the changes between fingerings. But for now, because we're just focusing on major harmony, and I'm super tempted to talk about more stuff, but we need to keep on task, let's get into the major harmony for F. So instead of me going and figuring out the harmony from this point, which we can do, but we're trying to keep things simple here, I want us to actually play the major scale going up linearly. So what I'd like for us to do is play our keynote, which is on the 3rd fret. Give a whole step, a whole step, and a half step, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and a half step. Now, depending on where we need to land, that's going to be the major scale formula that we're going to use. Because we're going to F, all we need to do is do that up till we get to the 4th note. So here's our 1st, here's our 2nd, here's our 3rd, here's our 4th. And if that's a little bit too much right now, don't worry. We just needed to find the starting spot. So now that we're here, we can apply the same method that we did before with this idea of the major scale. So remember the pattern that we played here with C major? Now we're going to play that same pattern, but we're going to start at that 4th note of the scale. So we'll play that pattern here. Move movable, just like I said earlier. Awesome, and thank God for it. So now, in order to figure out our harmony, it's going to be a little trickier, but it's totally possible, and we'll be able to move it around. So we're going to go C, and then, we're going to go F, and then we've got our A, and we've got our C. So in order to be able to play this at the same time, because we don't have like an open string, if we try to do that same trick, it'll sound cool, but it's not going to be as easy as before to get the exact note. Which sounds, like I said, very cool, but we're trying to get that fifth of the scale. So we need this C. In order to get that C, what we can do is we could place our pinky on the root note, which is going to be up at the 8th fret, and on the 5th string. And then we're going to play our ring finger on the 7th fret of string 4. And then our pointer finger is going to be on the 5th fret of string 3. It is a little bit of a stretch, but it is a really, really good hand position to know. So that's going to be our F major triad. Moving on, we're going to take this whole shape up because we know we need to get to the 5th note, and we know the 5th note of the scale. And we also know that the 5th note of the scale is going to be a whole step up. And if you didn't know that, that's okay. It's just follow the hand pattern. All we need to do is get there. Now, if you're like me and you need to know the details, we'll walk through it from the very beginning. So, root note, boom, whole step, half step, whole step. That's the start. And this will be the place where we need to start our scale. And remember, we're looking for the major third plus the perfect fifth to get our major triad. Now, in order to get this note, we're going to play our pinky on the 10th fret, our ring finger on the 9th fret, and our pointer finger on the 7th fret. And that's our G major triad. So let's take it back. We've got our G major triad. Bring it a whole step down. We have our F major triad, which, to just go over again, the pinky is on the 8th fret of string 5, ring finger is on the 7th fret of string 4, and pointer finger is on the 5th fret of string 3. And then we'll bring it back down here. You can keep that same position, or you can go to that original position we had, where we had ring finger on the 3rd fret, pointer finger on the 2nd fret of string 4, and open 3rd string. So if I wanted to just put some kind of down strumming rhythm on that, I could do something like this. And what's actually really cool is if you're doing this exercise and you're like running into other notes and it's not just those 3 strings, that's okay. It sounds really, really pretty if you do. If you are having any trouble in getting this fingering and being able to play it, remember, I'm just a video response away and a comment away if you don't want to go with that option. But no matter what you do, is just know that I'm there to help you, and Lord willing, we'll get it solved to where you're able to play this. But let's continue. Let's go through the exercise one more time. being sloppy. All right, now that was our major triad harmony. Our first chord, our fourth chord of the scale, and our fifth chord of the scale. All three being major chords, and how we figure that out at the start is by first figuring out the key. In this case, it was C. And then figuring out where the first note of the scale is, the major scale, because we're playing major harmony right now. The fourth note of the scale, and the fifth note of the scale. And once we find each of those places, then we figure out where our third is of each of those places, our fifth is, and then we put our major third and our perfect fifth together. Now, if all of that stuff is just gobbledygook, that's okay. As long as you know the hand positions, you're in a really good way for now. But with that, I hope that you had a lot of fun with this lesson. God bless you, and Lord willing, I will see you in the next one. Also, be aware that this lesson is in preparation for you understanding the next lesson. So make sure you get this, go over it, repeat it, and hopefully it will help and benefit you so that you understand those chords that are going to be coming up in the next lesson. God bless you.